Is he gonna get in the Hall of Fame? Is not a question. Is he
He's
first
not
ballot?
first ballot for me. For me, he's not first ballot. For me, he's not.
There's
I
no
would
question
not put
he's
him
going to
first
the Hall of
ballot.
Fame of what I said.
I,
But it's what I
I'm
said.
not put.
What I said
I'm
make him.
not putting a first ballot guy in who's 500. I'm not putting a guy in the Hall of Fame first ballot and his record is 500.
Welcome everyone to another episode of No Jazz, which is short for, as we all know, not just another sports show. I am your host, KD, and again, I am with my partner. And I don't even like to say crime these days, man. That done changed this. It done changed
Yeah.
the feel. So I'm with my partner in force, Tank.
Hey, what's
Hello,
going on?
Tank.
What's going on, peoples?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's going
yeah,
on? Yeah, based upon what I
yeah,
said, man, we might have to hit the refresh button one of these nights on what everybody know what I'm talking about.
yeah. Because partner in crime, we mess around and wind up having
Woo,
indictments.
they giving out too many indictments to say I'm your partner, but I do not want the RICO. And before I get into it, I want all of us to just remember and thank you for joining us. And please remember to hit that subscribe button and please go follow us at No Jazz Show on YouTube. That is NOJASS Show on our YouTube channel. And follow us at No Jazz Show at Twitter. And follow us or come join us on Facebook in our Facebook group No Jazz, as well as Instagram NO.JASS for all of your entertainment sports needs that we provide and give to you. How you doing today, Tank?
Hey, I'm doing good. Had a good weekend in and out of town. So yeah, I'm ready to get to it.
Ready to get
Had,
to it.
had a few days had a few days off work.
Enjoy it, man. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I'm glad you enjoyed that few days off work. My weekend was pretty good. I call my weekends. I wanted to have a 100% weekend, but I had a 50-50 weekend, and we all know what the 50-50 mean. That means Hurricanes won on Saturday, but them Cowboys stunk up the place on Sunday. So we're not gonna get into that, but just I'm just letting you know how my weekend went. But I thank God that I'm still alive, and all the people around here who are following us and with us. It's blessed to see us. And speaking of which, I just want to kind of give a shout out to, before we begin, the family of Frankie Beverly, who passed away prior to our last episode. I just want to send a shout out to him. He had some great hits. New Orleans native. They celebrated him well, and it was very good to see them send Frankie home the way they did.
Quick question
In
about
that
quick question for you. Uh, can you
period.
think of another group or artist that you can play their music at the family reunion, at the
Oh man,
barbecue, at the barbecue, at a church function, or anywhere else, and nobody's gonna have a complaint
I'm gonna tell you, you
besides Macy's?
you usually don't have complaints when you go from 80s to 60s anyway. So I'm going to say Maze is my one. Earth, Wind, and Fire would be like 1A.
Okay.
The Commodores can get in there, but and Stevie Wonder, not a band, but Stevie
Yeah.
Wonder as an artist can get in that. Now here's the thing. Here's the thing though. Here's the tricky part. They only know Frankie Beverly and Maze word for word. Everybody else, they kind
Yeah.
of be like
Right.
playing into the chorus. They don't really remember the words from back in the day. They don't remember that Earth, Wind, and Fire. That you might have one or two uncles that's like select within each song, but Frankie Beverly and Maze has a word for word thing like
Yeah.
none other.
Yeah.
And I do believe that is because they stayed relevant within the generation as far as touring and going to concerts, and making sure we heard them, prior to that. So shout out to Frankie Beverly, shout out to Mays, and being at the barbecue, and everyone knows it word for word, I should say. So I will give Mays 1 on that one. That was a good one. That was a good one. Now, speaking of mazes, we are finding ourselves in a maze of confusion. Or a possibility, I should say. A possibility of a maze of confusion with these quarterbacks. In this quarterback situation going on in the NFL, a lot of things happening in the NFL. And the youth movement is kind of coming into play. But the first maze of possible confusion is happening out there in your land, in Pittsburgh. Everybody's questioning, and everybody's trying to figure out if Justin Fields continues to win, should the Pittsburgh Steelers go back to Russell Wilson?
First of all, I wouldn't say go back to Russell Wilson because he ain't stepped on the field yet. So, but
So we give him that because he hadn't stepped on the field, or because he was called the starter?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But my feeling is, if we're 2-0, we beat the Chargers this week, we go to 3-0. If Justin is still playing and his level of production is what it has been, which is, to be honest, is below average. I mean, it's not like he hadn't hit 200 yards passing. He hasn't thrown but 1 touchdown.
Don't blame Aaron Rodgers now.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm just saying he's not. We're winning with him. We're not winning because of him. We're winning because we're playing great defense. We're not giving up points. We only gave up small sample size. We've only given up 16 points this year. Najee is averaging 70 yards on the head per game. And also, as a team, we're averaging 150, 160 yards rushing. So if you can play defense, you can control the clock and you can run the ball and score and eke out just enough points because your defense isn't giving up any, you can win. But is there enough to be successful long term? That's very debatable, especially in this day and age, because you got, especially second half of the schedule, we got people that's coming through there who's slinging the rock. So I think that it's hard. It'll be hard on one standpoint to bench to bench Fields and put Wilson in if we're still winning. But the offense has to be more productive as far as points wise. We can't live on field goals. We can't live on a touchdown and 1 field goal or 2 field goals. We need to score points. And if Fields isn't able to deliver us points, granted, 1 touchdown was taken away because stupid Van Jefferson and everybody else is committing penalties on offense because Pickens did catch one in the end zone. But he can't get us to score more points, you're going to have to shake it up and say, okay, put Wilson in and see what he does. And if Wilson turns out to do the same thing that Fields did, then you basically got 2 guys who aren't the guy. But I think
if you're questioning what I'm doing, Justin Fields, I'm Justin Fields. I go into the office. You're questioning whether or not I should start, because it sounds like you're making him a game manager right now, first 2 games of the season, and I understand that we've seen game managers make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And conference championship game. Now the thing is, Justin goes into the office and he hears Russell's going to get his job back, and Justin's argument is, well, look across the league. People are winning games, basically doing the same thing I'm doing. What's your justification for telling him that Russell's going to get in there and do probably the same thing that everybody else is doing, and you're demoting him for it? What's the justification?
It would basically be, we need more. I want to see if the offense can score some more points. I'm not saying bench him. I'm saying that if we did, because some people might say that they're the same quarterback at this point in both of their careers. Fields, talent-wise, I hate to say it, potential wise and his physical gifts has an upside. But we have to see that manifest into being in his game itself has to manifest in accordance with what kind of physical ability he has. Wilson is going to provide veteran leadership, and he does throw a great deep ball still, and Pickens can go get it. So that will be the only thing. I just don't. It's sticky because
Very sticky.
Because neither one of them did anything in the preseason or training camp to to broaden the gap between the two of them, widen the gap between the two of them. It's basically you got the same two people, they're just in different bodies at this point in time. Fields needs to go out this week, still play within himself, but he needs to guide the offense to scoring some touchdowns, because otherwise it's really not, other than, man, we just don't want to change because, hey, we're winning. Other than that, you got to give Wilson a shot, because 17 points is not going to beat Kansas City. 17 points is not going to beat Baltimore if they come in and they start doing some things that they can do. 17 points is not going to beat Cincinnati if they're clicking on all cylinders. 17 points is not going to beat the Texans if they're clicking on all cylinders. And that's what we need to be looking at. Short term is working, but long term we need more.
All your food delivery needs, make sure you go to Light Snack. That's LYTE snack.com. And make sure for all your deliveries, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, you visit Light Snack and they'll deliver it right to your door. And make sure when you get those deliveries, make sure you're ordering those Magic City wings. And remember, their motto, don't forget to lick the sauce. All right. Short term working, long term, we need more. You face an AFC West team coming up this weekend. AFC West looking pretty strong. You know, you have AFC West, Kansas City. The Raiders they have a loss, but they're looking formidable. We're about to see what the Chargers are going to do against you, and then we have Denver out there with Sam Darnold, who's the second question as far as quarterback is concerned. Sam Darnold seems to have found a fit. I'm not going to go into that yet because there's still not enough Sam Darnold tape to he's found himself. So I'm not about to be a prisoner at the moment, but he is looking good. So what do you got to say about Sam Darnold?
I think he's in a good situation in Minnesota. He's got the best receiver in the league to throw to. Addison is going to be back. They've got a good defense, and I think Sam Darnold I think he's always had the ability to be a good quarterback. I'm not going to say great, but he's performing well and he's got talent around him now. He hasn't had talent to work with before. And I also think that the coaching staff is doing what a good coaching staff does. They're putting him in a position to succeed. Of course, he's going to be on the bench next year when McCarthy comes back, but he might wind up starting somewhere else for a team that needs. He's doing good. I'm not going to be a prisoner of the moment either and say, man, he's there. He's there. He's had 2 good games, and that's all we can judge him on right now. But as of now, he's looking steady. I'm not I'm not going to say, oh, put him up for comeback player of the year, but he's been steady, and it's been working for him.
And I do apologize for that because and maybe Bo Nix. They were looking so much like Sam Darnold last year. Excuse me, but shout out to Bo Nix. He's trying. Speaking of Bo Nix is going to a new quarterback again. He's actually 1 year in, and a surprise to many of us. You know, probably should have led the story, but it is top news. The benching of Bryce Young, and this kind of comes as a surprise to a lot of people, and it kind of comes as not, because I do believe the young man began the year on a short leash, and no one really let us know how short that leash was. But I just kind of want to I want to run down something because of Bryce Young pedigree, and this is something that struck me. Bryce Young, we all know, is from the powerhouse of Alabama. Now let's look at our 4 Alabama quarterbacks that are currently in the league. We have Jalen Hurts, currently 2-9 in his last 11 games.
Are you going to hold on? Are you going to call Hurts an Alabama quarterback, or because he finished up at Oklahoma, you're going to call him an Oklahoma quarterback?
He's a Bama Homer quarterback.
Okay.
He still started, and let's go to the next name before Tua Tagovailoa took over, and he currently is questionable as far as staying in the league, retiring. Has Miami currently looking at the future? You know, the present they might roll with him, but I think the Miami front offices are definitely looking at the future. We have out in New England, currently playing backup. That was behind them both. And then Bryce Young is benched, which leads me to ask the question: are the Bama quarterbacks and any quarterback in the NFL, and I think we've discussed this before, do they have so much talent around them that their actual talent is being camouflaged and you really can't see that it's not them? And then when you get to the league, they get exposed.
I think that they have been good quarterbacks in college. They've had talent, but at the same time, they're playing in the SEC. So, and a weak quarterback play is going to be exposed in the SEC. But I think they're good quarterbacks in college. They get to the NFL, and it's a little different. And some of them have shortcomings, and they haven't been molded as far as to get a good chance in the NFL. Also, these quarterbacks, and it all ties in. These quarterbacks are being thrown into the fire before they're ready. Just because you come out and get drafted number 1 overall, talking about Bryce, or drafted in the first round, does not mean that you are or should be ready to play. And generally the higher you're drafted, the worse team and worse situation you're going to be in.
I have a CJ Stroud that says hold my beer.
Yeah, but CJ didn't went to a team that had a little more talent. The higher you're drafted,
it looks like
the better.
It looks like that because they're probably a better coach team.
Yeah, but generally, because if you're trying to say just at Bama quarterbacks, it's the way it's been looking, which could be.
Not just Bama quarterbacks, but when you look at the Bama quarterbacks, I think a lot of quarterbacks suffer from this. You know, Jaden Daniels hadn't been that productive, and that's SEC. You know, so we can say SEC if you add him in the bunch. I'm just saying, like, we know the skill positions that Bama produces could indeed camouflage. You know, there are some high level skill receivers that just make quarterbacks just
right.
better. Right. So it's that camouflaging them. Then when they get to the pros, you really can't notice what they really weren't.
Yeah, but I also believe everybody is not going to be successful from day one. Some quarterback, it used to be before they got to this, before we got into these huge salaries, before they had a rookie salary cap, before they started signing first round picks to 5-year contracts with after 4 years you pick up or not pick up their 5th year option. They're being forced in. A lot of times they're being forced in to play before they're ready. They used to be like when I was growing up watching, it wasn't unusual to see a quarterback struggle and not produce until his 3rd, 4th, or 5th year. And you can look at some of the top quarterbacks who've played in the history of this game prior to what we have going on now with salary caps and all that. Generations ago, there's some, if they were playing today and starting off the way that they started off, they would be 3rd stringers or they would be on the bench. but these guys they eventually turned into Hall of Famers. I think these owners, the owners are so quick to pull the trigger and fire a coach that a coach is like, hey, if I didn't draft this quarterback, I'm not tied into him. Like Carolina's coach. Hey, I didn't draft Bryce. I'm not tied to him. Hey, if he can't get the job done, get him out of here because I'm not going to lose my job because the guy before thought you were good. And it puts pressure on the coach to not develop the guy. The guy's not fully developed the way they ought to be. But another one, Aaron Rodgers. Had he been thrown in, if they had the Packers gone ahead and thrown Brett Favre out with the bathwater and went on ahead and thrown Rodgers in to start as a rookie or his second year, Rodgers might not have developed into how he developed. I'm not saying he would have. I'm not.
Isn't that like?
You got to take time and cultivate it. Some don't have it. Some just won't make it.
Where's the data that says the cultivated quarterback and the thrown-in quarterback is done better?
If you look at the past, we talk about the past. You look at guys who didn't start right away and they sat on the bench maybe for a year.
On the bench.
Marino started halfway through his rookie season, and Marino is another one who's an exception. And he's an exception, but he didn't start right away. Donovan McNabb sat on the bench. Huh?
How long did Big Ben sit?
Ben sat for 3 weeks. The only reason Ben didn't continue to sit is because Tommy Maddox got hurt. And I don't want to say that's a good thing, but I wasn't upset that Maddox got hurt. But Donovan McNabb sat for a year. Patrick Mahomes sat for a year.
How long did
Joe Montana sat for a year, for 2 years. Cam Newton, exception, and you see where he was, Carolina.
If we keep going back and forth with this, the data doesn't show one greater than the other in regards to sitting or not. Like I think that's a cliche statement based upon. I think that's a cliche statement based upon the fact that if you have someone bona fide in front of you, even if they're headed down that road of retirement, you're just going to end up sitting. Alex Smith was still bona fide enough to hold Mahomes at bay. Favre was still bona fide enough to make you say, oh, it was good for him to sit behind him. So it's not necessary. The data doesn't necessarily tell you that one has been greater than the other because it's a copycat league. And I do believe if that indeed was the case, then more of them would do it. But there's just still, how long did CJ Stroud sit?
About 2 or 3 days.
But
the thing is,
the data doesn't support that argument, even though that argument has validity.
I think that it does, but it's case by case though. It's a case by case basis. Some quarterbacks can do it right away.
The case still isn't whether Penix is better than Cousins. The case is you have a capable Cousins to sit a Penix. The case is sometimes you don't have that guy. Jaden, who did you have in Washington that would say, Jaden, you should sit down and watch him, and I think you'll be better. Sometimes you have to be thrown to the fire. And it's not. Was there anyone that was going to sit Caleb Williams down?
They were determined to start when last year when they were saying we're gonna have the number 1 pick while the season was still going on, they had already decided we're getting Caleb Williams. And Caleb is not ready.
The data does not necessarily work for or against the sitting quarterback versus the throwing in the fire. There's been enough guys that have had great careers on both ends. Like I'm just asking when you say that, there's still something more going on. You can even add in that data. How long did Peyton Manning sit?
Peyton sat 1 game in Tennessee when he started college.
and then you can still argue he had Marshall Faulk behind him. How long? Who took over for Peyton Manning?
Jim Sorgi.
Who?
Jim Sorgi, he played for a couple of games.
Oh, and then they let
Then they got then they got Luck.
Then they got Andrew Luck.
But I think that
so it's kind of
it's a case by case basis,
right.
and it also depends on what kind of system you're running and what kind of talent the guy has around. I mean, Bryce doesn't have anything to work with besides an over the hill slowing Adam Thielen. It's like, how much success do you really expect him to have? And yes, he makes bad decisions and he throws bounce passes, but he's not ready yet. Will he ever be ready? I don't know. But when you throw a guy out there and he's not ready, and you can't just say, okay, you're a bust. No, he's not necessarily a bust, but it's gonna take time for it to come out if he has it. I'm not saying he has it, but 18 games and two games into this coaching regime is not enough time to say, okay, we're gonna bench him. And I know they're not. I know they aren't going to trade him. And Dalton is a stopgap. Dalton hasn't been truly effective in ages. So
what pick was Joe Montana in the draft? Was he in the top 5?
Third round pick, and he sat behind Steve DeBerg for 1 or 2 years.
So really, hold on. So really, you're speaking on Joe Montana, hindsight 2020. You're not speaking on Joe Montana first top 5 pick. So you can't use Joe Montana. You can't use you. It's difficult to say. Yes, we know what Joe Montana is, but Joe Montana was not a top 5 pick to be comparing him to Bryce Allen in that regard, because Joe Montana might be just like Bryce Young if he was top 5. So that's not fair to Bryce or Joe. When you third round, you're gonna have to sit. You're gonna have to earn the spot.
Yeah, but just like I said though, it's a case by case basis, and a coach and ownership has to be willing to be patient to let this guy figure it out. Just like you have to be patient to let your blindside tackle figure it out. You got to be patient to let your cornerback figure it out. He's out there getting beat like a drum by all these all pro receivers. You saying, oh, he can't play. No, he's not ready yet. You're gonna let him learn baptism under fire, if you're gonna let someone learn baptism under fire, you got to let them go in there, and you have to say, hey, we expect him to turn it around, and we should be seeing some improvement after a year in this system, or after his 2 years. But to bench him after 2 weeks is crazy, because now his confidence is already shot. Now you've benched him for a 36-year-old guy with a popsicle arm who's not going to be in there and last the season and do anything for you anyway. And I'm sure, watch, eventually they're going to go back to Bryce this season. And Bryce, will he have learned anything? I doubt it, because the backup doesn't take snaps. He's just watching, going over skull sessions. You need to let him play, just like you need to let any young quarterback that you choose to start with. You need to let him play and help him figure it out instead of benching him because you're scared I'm about to lose my job. There needs to be a decision. There needs to be understanding between the owner, the head coach, and the GM that this is a process. This is going to take time. Every quarterback is not going to come out and do what Marino did. They're not going to do what Ben did. They're not going to do what Flacco did. They're not going to do what Ryan did. You can't. That's the copycat part of the league. Oh well, he started right away as a rookie, and look at the success he had. So our quarterback should do the same thing. Everybody's different. You can't. It's crazy. They need to stop thinking about, man, we paying them this money and we aren't winning. Yeah, you're not winning because you got nothing on you around him, and he's just not ready yet.
So your point is not the quarterback. Your point is the GM.
It's the GM and owner and the coach that all have to be on one accord and let this guy develop. Not just Bryce, but any quarterback that you decide to start as a rookie. let him develop. If he sits as a rookie and starts his second year.
See, that's where I'm at odds again. How long did Trevor Lawrence sit?
Trevor started, and you saw what happened with Trevor. And Trevor is one of the few quarterbacks I've ever heard of, a few players I ever heard of who gets a mulligan because he had a great college coach
Come out here.
who was horrible in
hold on.
the NFL.
There's another mulligan out there. There's another mulligan by the name of Joe Burrow.
Well, Burrow got hurt as a rookie, and the next year they go to the Super Bowl,
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is my
and
thing.
He had more talent with him than Bryce has with him.
And that's the thing. That ain't a Bryce issue, and that's not a quarterback development issue. And I'm throwing Brock Purdy in here too. Now I guess it seems you have to put on your GM hat and say, we don't have even Big Ben. We don't have the talent just because we get caught up, and maybe it's the politics of the NFL, and you have to do it when you have those top picks, and quarterback is the face of the NFL. But GMs have to put on the real GM hat and say, I got to look at my roster, and I don't have the talent to develop a top 5 quarterback. I won't pick him. I'm going to get me a top 5 lineman first. I'm going to get me a top 5 pass rusher, top 5 linebacker, top 5 wide receiver. And then next year, I'm going to get that number 1 guy, or the next 2 years, I'm going to get that number 1 guy. Because when you don't have your protection around you, you're going to have Tank making arguments like, you should have waited and let him sit around. At the end of the day, Jordan Love actually sat around until they reloaded with the young receivers. And then he was playing with them on the practice squad and came up with them. Joe Burrow actually already had a defense.
Yeah, and he had some pieces on offense.
Yeah,
but you have to everybody. But at the same time, though,
right?
Yeah, but at the same time, yeah, you can have that talent. But at the same, you can have that talent because right now in Chicago, they think they have a lot of talent. Huh? Yeah, but like in Chicago right now, they have a quarterback in Caleb Williams who looks completely lost, but they claim they had all this talent built up around him already, and they say no rookie quarterback is coming to a better, more talented offensive skill position than anybody. That's what they say. And if it's true, we hadn't seen it because Caleb just isn't ready yet. You could sit him, or you could you could play him and take your lumps with him and not call him, not say, okay, he's a bust after 1 year not doing well. He's got to figure it out.
What's Chicago's record?
Well, they 1-1.
1-1. They won that first game because of defense, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's check this out. I think people are rushing Caleb because Caleb is actually developing the exact way you should develop with all that talent around you. We need to assess Caleb game 7, game 8, because he's supposed to be doing exactly what he's doing, letting everybody else win for you. Like I think his name and the brand that they're trying to get around that, and the desire to have Chicago back in the fold so quickly, that is why you're looking at Caleb Williams like he's not ready yet. It's only been 2 games. I'm not gonna say Caleb Williams not ready yet. Caleb Williams is doing exactly what he need to be doing. Starting and letting all this talent around you win a game for you, because you're not supposed to be winning games right now. You're just not. You're supposed to be finding yourself in the Brock Purdy conversation.
Yeah, but the thing about it is
conversation. That was Jerome Bettis in that defense. You had some solid wide receivers. It wasn't you.
Yeah, you have to let the guy develop, and the pressure that's on him is, if he can handle the pressure, he should be all right. But people have to realize if Caleb goes out and throws for 1,800 yards as a rookie and has 5 touchdowns and 30 interceptions, don't say, oh, he's trash. he played like trash this year, but he's developing. He's got, again, some guys just take longer to develop. To be honest, I don't expect a whole lot out of any rookie. If you want a lot, but hey, they got to learn. It's a completely different game. Everybody in the NFL is good.
Shout out to CJ Stroud, who has people living in a microwave. That's really what it is, you know. And that ain't even saying CJ Stroud is this exceptional talent. What was the AFC South last year?
Nothing.
It ain't really. It was really nothing to beat Jacksonville. The Colts snuck out of there,
Indianapolis,
and you know, and Tennessee still in the Will Levis experiment. So, and that's nothing against CJ. I'm just saying that's 8 games in your division.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So everybody pretty much knows that mathematically that's any division. You win your division. You win more games in your division. You can sneak one in on outside of your division and get in the playoffs.
Yeah. Again, and not to berate the point, but everybody develops at a different speed, different pace, and the GM, the owner, and the coach need to be on one accord, saying this is gonna be a process. It might happen quickly, or it might take a couple of years. But if we're committed to this guy, regardless of position, if we're committed to him, we're going to do everything that we can to put him in a position to succeed. Now, if he can't do it and you never see any improvement, then you can start over. But really, if you put Bryce back in this year, which I'm sure they will, I don't know how much better he's going to be, because you got to build up his confidence again. I'm the franchise guy. You drafted me in the first round. 2 games in my second season, I'm on the bench. You don't believe in me, so now you're going to throw me back out here. The other guys don't believe in me because they just saw you say I'm the starter. Then 24 hours later, okay, I'm on the bench. Who's going to help me? Who's going to have these guys? What am I going to be able to do to get these guys to believe in me when y'all don't believe in me?
Here's what you do. Going into my next point, or our next point topic. Passing yards are down thus far. They are not looking like they did. Nothing has ballooned up. People in fantasy are like trying to figure out, you know, when I have this 1.5 TDs, should I pick the over? And a lot of people are going under. These quarterbacks are not throwing for 300 yards. This is a cakewalk, and they might prove me wrong this Sunday, Monday, and even tomorrow night. So the thing is, peer wise, and I'm not talking about Bryce anymore. I'm talking about the passing yards in the NFL. But peer wise, you know, if Bryce was putting up W's, he'd probably be looking just like everybody else. What you say going on with these passing yards being down, Tank?
One, because the preseason is just all jacked. These guys aren't playing together. And it's a difference in practice and playing in a preseason game against another team. Also, usually by week 4 or 5, they've got all the preseason stuff out of the way into 5 games to the regular season. So the numbers will probably start going up. But what I'm hoping is that the defenses have finally caught up in spite of the league legislating against them and always trying to tie their third hand behind their back so they can't even play defense.
I totally agree. I think we're in a cycle year. Yep.
Yeah. I'm hoping that this is the year that defense is making the comeback and it'll be all across the board. And if that's the case, they better not go back to the damn committee after the season and say, hey, we need to do something because scoring is down, yards are down, and the people who don't know football and aren't real fans, they just like to see points scored, they're upset. I don't care if they're upset. Let's get back to letting these guys play football, and you do what you need to do in order to win. But hopefully, its defense is caught up. Hopefully,
I think the dynamic of the sack and the interception, with them both scoring a lot of fantasy points. The inception of adding the bets of defenders, not just the whole defense, but individual defenders, has added that element to where I don't think they will push as hard per se as what the NBA would push for no defense. But I don't think the NFL will push as hard because we have these dynamic athletes and this is almost universal. DBs are arguably the best athlete on the field, pure. And I think tight ends might have an argument in that as well. But DBs are getting their justification in that, and you do see the defense turning into offense a little bit more with the DBs. Everybody's seeing how a cornerback who really can't cover one-on-one as good as 10 other cornerbacks got paid because he has hands, he's athletic, and he could turn on that ball and turn it into offense. So I believe that the dynamic of the excitement and the ability to score, especially if you have a stagnant offense and once I get this ball on defense, I might need to take it back to the house because I got a quarterback that can't do the job. But at any rate, I think that allows that argument for defense because they're just so excited. Defense is a little bit more exciting than it was a few years ago when they took all of those things away from them. And those boys are learning how to play in that hand.
I think okay, it could be exciting to true fans and people who really love the game, but to these fringe people, I don't think defense is exciting to them unless it turns into points, because all they're looking at is saying, "Hey, nobody's got an end zone. Why aren't there a lot of points? Why was this game only 13-10? This is boring. I don't like this." And in the actuality, it could have been a brilliant game.
To the fringe anymore?
Yeah, that's what the NFL.
With all these platforms,
I think so.
Breaking down the dynamics of football.
Mm-hmm.
Do the fringe really have the same argument they had 10, 15 years ago?
I think the NFL thinks they do, because the NFL is always trying to expand. They want to get everybody in watching. They don't care if you don't like football. I've seen and heard a lot of people, just like, and the prime example is every year, Super Bowl parties. What do you hear? Hear the people who coming. Well, I'm just here because it's the Super Bowl. I don't really like football. I'm just here because it's the game. A lot of people don't really like the game, so to speak, but the excitement of it and being in there with the crowd or whatnot is what they get.
What's percentage of that? 1-4, 1-4, 1-7, 1-10?
I don't know. I think it's a little higher, especially if it comes to TV time. But I just think that
by the time halftime is over and the fourth quarter comes and the NFL has done its manipulation of making sure that game is exciting at the end, that has become a...
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a purist. So all the stuff that they try to do to make it exciting and do this and changing it around, just like the dynamic kickoff, I'm a purist. I don't like it. They turned it into a scrimmage play because they want more points. They want people to be excited about it. So it's, I understand this marketing, but the NFL is such a great brand.
Kick either, huh?
Huh?
You don't like the 50-yard kick either. The 50 and the 60-yard kick either.
Yeah, I don't mind if you kick it 50 or 60 yards for a field goal. I don't mind if you kick it. I don't mind it being kicked off and someone down it. But I don't like when you're trying to just change the whole thing dynamic, because, and this might be off top, but this dynamic kickoff, if they decide to keep it at the end of this season, now, is that going to trickle down to college? Is it going to trickle down to high school? Is it going to trickle down to Pop Warner? Just like the 2-point conversion, it trickled up to the NFL. I always like not having it.
Speaking of college, who's the most dynamic? Back to the subject. Who's the most dynamic college player out right now?
Everybody's going to say Travis Hunter.
The fringe and the purists will probably say Travis Hunter right now, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people will say it because that's what they keep hearing. They might have only seen him play a couple of plays, but yeah,
But aside from that context, he is bringing in. We know the reality of that as purists, but he's bringing in the excitement of this guy is a defender that can create offense, right? And the wide receiver. Now, I'm not talking about the cornerback wide receiver thing, but he is making someone look at that dynamic and say, we need this type of corner. You know, you might even lose your pure shutdown corner. Like I'm going to equivocate it to I believe that corner is going to have a Steph Curry effect. Meaning you're going to lose the purity of just being a straight up fundamental shutdown corner because you're going to lose out to the dude who might have 6% of your coverage skills, but he commands and he's far beyond you ball hawk because of the scoring, the turnover of the ball, the dynamic of I can turn this thing around and go this way and go that way. And you need all of those aspects of the game to score in the cycle. You know,
I don't think we're gonna see a whole bunch of guys coming in playing both ways in the college.
no,
I don't.
not both ways, not both ways.
Oh, you mean someone who's maybe not as good in coverage, but if he gets his hands on the ball, it's a happy day.
You might see more Trayvon Diggs beating out a well-deserved AJ Terrell Jr. in Denver, you know, because someone may say they are hurting the game. I'm not saying that they're hurting the game, but they're not the excitement that the game needs. You know, oh, y'all shutting off that side of the field. We got 3 wide receivers spread. We want this ball spread around. I'm not throwing it over there to him. Are you crazy?
Yeah, you got, but if you got a guy who is like you said, if he gets his hands on the ball, you know, he's instant offense. Yeah, you're gonna find somewhere to put him on defense as far as a corner. It might even be as a nickel.
Like I'm really gonna ask myself, is Deron Bland the man when he comes back? We might have 2 assets and liabilities at the same time. He had coverage issues.
Yeah.
So not talking about them, but I'm just talking about the fact that, you know, these are the dynamics of creating more scoring. Passing is down. Running is not like the balance to make it feel like passing should be down. But at any rate, you know, those are those things that are going. And speaking of running being down, you have your play running back and your starting running back down in San Francisco. And now, speaking of quarterbacks, the gods have spoken on the purists, and the gods have spoken to the game managers. The gods have spoken to Brandon Ayuk. And remember, ladies, for all of your comfort and around the house wear, lingerie, comfy clothes, make sure you visit quickvisits.com. That's QUIKVISITS.com for all of your lounge wear, lingerie wear, sport wear, workout wear, athletic wear. Make sure you go to quickvisits.com. They'll be there for you, and you'll love that. I tell you. Can you show improve now that Christian McCaffrey and Debo? Christian McCaffrey being on IR and Debo is out. What do you think about that? Can Brock Purdy step up? Well, you know what? The defense is going to have to step up. I'm just keeping it honest. But can Brock Purdy do what he needs to do to solidify his argument in the market of quarterbacks by having an argument to say, well, look at what I did without 2 of my greatest weapons?
I think he's capable. He's capable, but at the same time, you can't really hold Minnesota against him because Minnesota is beating them like the last 5 or 6 times they played him. But the thing is with Brock, I think he's a good quarterback. He's done what he should be able to do with those pieces around him. Now, I look at it as not him having to prove anything, but Ayuk has to prove that he's worth being the pain in the butt that he was the past 6 months when he could have signed that contract and not missed training camp he could have signed that contract with Dave, and they say, "Hey, here's this money." That is what's hurting them as well, because he wasn't there to work with them. Ayuk wasn't at practice. It wasn't in training camp. He was working with McCaffrey. McCaffrey was out a lot of training camp also. So Purdy is, I would say he's more used to acclimated to not having him back there as far as practicing with him. Now losing Debo, but it's gonna hurt because he's a weapon, jackknife or whatnot. But I just think that they're in a bad situation. Like you said, the defense is gonna have to play a whole lot better. Not that they haven't been playing well. They need to play a whole lot better because you got, what's his name, Mason. He's not. I mean, it's not like he's only been in the league a year. Most people will probably tell you he shouldn't be on the team, but he's their starter until CMC comes back. Now, and what's his name, Persall, who got shot, he hasn't been able to play, and they were expecting him to be another bullet in the chamber. So it's kind of hard.
Still there, and Kittle is still around.
Kittle's banged up too.
Kittle's getting up there too.
Yeah, he's banged up. So now you're looking at Purdy with one healthy weapon, and that's Ayuk.
Is that his excuse? I mean, he was more than a game manager. I mean, I'm not trying.
Yeah, but if the other,
hey, I'm not trying to hear that. You only have Ayuk. You're gonna end up with only an Ayuk anyway if you get a big contract. You're gonna end up in that situation kind of anyway.
Yeah, but when he gets that contract, everybody else is still under contract for a couple of years until they break it up. I think he's gonna still get paid, but it's kind of hard to expect the same results when you don't have the same personnel there. I mean, you lost the best back in the league. You lost one of the most versatile players in the league in Debo. You lost one of the better tight ends in Kittle, who's banged up. Then you got Mr. Wannabe Diva Ayuk, who is getting into football shape because his monkey behind didn't want to sign the contract and come to training camp early. So they're trying to work things out as well. And with Trent Williams, we're going to see if him missing camp, the whole thing, we're going to see at age 36, is that going to affect him on down the road? Absolutely. They've got a lot of things that happen that can affect them because people weren't in camp, and also because you got guys banged up this early in the season.
Well, the one good thing the 49ers do have going for themselves is the fact that the Seattle Seahawks are actually at the top of the division. And the people that they thought they were going to be chasing are 0-2 in the division. That's the LA Rams. There's plenty of time to come back, but at this point, this is nothing against the Seahawks, but that is a silver lining on this dark cloud. The fact that they are in the NFC West, and it doesn't seem to be as strong and formidable as it should be, which might keep them in the mix until things work out, and they may end up being what was that, 2017 Giants or something like that, just kind of come back at the end. And speaking of Giants, before we go, I know you said something, a few shows ago. You know who's the top 3 receiver in the league?
Top 3. Oh, who you gonna say? Neighbors?
Hey man, it's early, but he got 193 yards.
Yeah.
And trust me, he's in New York. All he needs is 500 this season. He's gonna be all right. Now, speaking of that, we are. You can look at our latest episode. Well, it's actually an episode that's out where we spoke on, the NFL Hall of Fame, and we did see, and we want to congratulate those who have been invited and got their first nomination. I should say nomination to be
the first year eligibility too.
First year eligibility, and one of the big names is Eli Manning. And is he first ballot?
I can't put him there. I can't put him there. And truthfully, out of just just the list of nominees who are in their first year eligibility, meaning they've been retired 5 years. The only one on that list that I would put in first ballot, and yes, they are people too, would be Adam Vinatieri, the kicker. Yes, kickers are players too. The rest of these guys, I don't think they're first round picks.
Eli Manning beat Tom Brady.
Yeah, I would put Adam in.
So Eli Manning will have beaten 2 Hall of Famers potentially that you say in the Super Bowl, huh?
Look, I don't. When I think of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, I'm starting up this list and I'm going all the way down here. And I'm going all the way down here. I'm down here. I'm near the bottom, and I say, yeah, Eli. Eli is not one of the top.
How many of those quarterbacks could have played in New York?
I think all of them. Everybody who I would think, I think they could have played in New York. Remember, Eli only had 2. Eli was a 500 quarterback. Eli never led the league in anything. Eli had 2 good postseason runs and benefited from that defense. I'm not faulting him for the defense. You do what you're supposed to do. He benefited from a heck of a catch from Tyree. The lucky catch. He benefited from a crazy, unbelievable catch from Manningham. He benefited
a great defense
from, yeah. So it's not like he was just lights out. Yeah, he was a 2-time Super Bowl MVP because generally you're going to give it to the winning quarterback.
I got a question. Give me your top 5, any team from New York. Give me your top 5 Super Bowl winning New York quarterbacks. You got Phil Simms. I think there's
Hostetler.
And
you got Manning. You got Manning. Oh, you talk about all the New York teams. Okay.
All the New York teams.
It's not 5 of them. It's only 4.
All right. Okay, that's my point. It's only 4. It's only 4. Is Phil Simms in the Hall of Fame? Hostetler. They won 1 Super Bowl apiece, right? Defense, right? All right. Who made it in the Hall of Fame from New York?
Namath.
Namath really was an average quarterback. It's funny we talking about Alabama. Now, Namath was an average quarterback. When you look at the numbers,
no, that's okay. Let me hold you right there. Okay.
Why did Namath make it in the Hall of Fame?
First quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards in the season. He won. He took his team to the Super Bowl, and they won it. He was one of the, and he also put the NFL. He put professional football on the nationwide map.
Because he played where?
Yeah, he played in New York.
What did he say? What did he say? What did he say?
He guaranteed to win.
He guaranteed to win. He guaranteed to win against an NFL team who wasn't supposed to be beaten. So let's look at the tail of the tape. At that time, the Baltimore Colts were the 15-0, or at that time 17-0 New England Patriots. I'm not talking undefeated.
Yeah.
Couldn't be beaten, right? What quarterback did he beat?
Unitas.
Would you put Unitas over Tom Brady? You see where I'm going?
No.
Hold on.
No, I wouldn't. And it's hard. It's hard to put somebody over somebody who.
Does Joe Namath, even though we know that Jets defense was hard, does Joe Namath have 2 Super Bowls against Johnny Unitas?
No.
Coming from New York. Does Eli Manning have 2 Super Bowls versus Tom Brady and Adam Vinatieri?
Yes, but quarterbacks aren't necessarily playing against each other. I'm not putting Eli in on first ballot. He's not. But again, my perception, the way I look at NFL the way I look at Hall of Fame player is you have to be
Hall of Fame. It's not about we know how.
No, this is my perspective.
As a matter of fact, go look at that last podcast that we did. The Hall of Fame needs a VIP, and we will know how Tank looks at the Hall of Fame. We understand how he looks at the Hall of Fame. The context here though is Eli first ballot, and when we throw him against New York, beating the best quarterback ever in his era, and we put him up against another New York quarterback who beat a dominant team. Eli did the same thing, and he's already in. How can you not put Eli in? Just off that alone.
He's not. And actually, if you want, and if you want to talk about, hold on. You said everybody throw for 4,000 yards these days. Joe Namath did it. He was the first one to do it. 4,000 yards is not incredible to do these days. But if you're talking about Eli, name where did you put Eli as far as all time? Is he gonna get in the Hall of Fame? Yes. His last name is Manning, and he got the 2 rings. But he is not.
Is he gonna get in the Hall of Fame? Is not a question. Is he first?
He's not first ballot for me. He's not first ballot. For me, he's not.
There's no
I would not put him first ballot.
Of what I said, but it's what I said. What I said.
I'm not putting a first ballot guy in who's 500. I'm not putting the guy in the Hall of Fame first ballot and his record is 500.
Career
500, or he has one more win than he does loss. That does not spell out Hall of Fame. If you take out those 2 Super Bowls, then you can't do it. But if you remove those 2, if those are 2 losses and not wins, nobody's saying Eli is a Hall of Fame. There's some guys who, if you take those Super Bowls away from them, they still be in the Hall of Fame. Eli is not one of them. Eli is not. No. Eli had 2 successful postseason runs.
What was your you're not putting the 500 guy in?
I'm not.
You know what Joe Namath's record was?
Yeah, I know Namath's record, but I also know the era in which he. No, hold
on for the audience. Here go. I got it. Johnny Carpenter. 62 and 60, 62, 63 and 4. So he under 500. He under 500. And he giving Joe all these props. He under 500 and said he won't put a 500 guy in there. If it doesn't fit, you must quit. It's time for you. Hey, man. I can't let you do that, man. I can't let you
I told you. He's going to go. He's getting in, but he's not first ballot to me. First ballot means that you're the best of the best. He's not. He's not. Nobody other than a Giants fan is going to tell you how great Eli was. Nobody.
I bet it's people in New England who will.
Oh, people in New England who still hate him, but they ain't going to tell you he was great.
This man, Eli done something. You know what? I'm not going to even talk about it. I'm going to let that go. We're going to see what happened. Eli is on the first ballot. Eli is on his first nomination as a Hall of Famer. And that brings us to the end of our show, everyone. It's been a great show, going back and forth. I love playing with Tank like that because he just knows me. I actually agree with him. Totally honest with you. As far as I did have to play. I did have to play Giants advocate in regards to that, and I just kind of want to give Tank these last words right fast.
Last words.
His last words. I should say. Go ahead.
The GMs, coaches, and owners need to be on one accord for the vision, short-term and long-term, of their franchise, particularly when it comes to putting young quarterbacks in or rookie quarterbacks in or expecting greatness out of a guy in his first or second year. Sure, you want it, but you should not be necessarily saying this is what he's going to be. It takes time to learn. You got blindside tackles who get beat like a drum for 2 years before they catch on. You got wide receivers who it might take them 2 years or 3 years before they get the nuances down of running routes and all of those subtleties of beating top tier cornerbacks in the league. You have to give that quarterback that same grace and not look around and look at, well, so-and-so did it, but so-and-so did it and probably had better team, better talent around. Again, I'm not saying that Bryce Young or any of these other young quarterbacks who are struggling aren't going to develop, and I'm not saying that they are going to develop, but you need to give them enough time to develop.
That's it?
That's it.
All right. I am going to go in another route, and this is where I want to go with this one. Heisman Trophy winner? No. What you did in college doesn't matter for any position as to what you do in the pros. But that's always the excuse when what you do in college does not translate over into the pros. But when what you do in college translates over into the pros, is we already saw that coming. You know, so that's a hypocritical remark. But I will say this for QBs. When you have that target on your back, Art Schlichter. You know, when you have that target on your back, my main man from LSU,
Marcus.
Jamarcus Russell. Yes. When you have that target on your back with a Heisman Trophy, Vince Young. When you have that target on your back with a when you have that target on your back with a great team that you played with, Alabama's, Vinny Testaverde, University of Miami, is when we had quarterback you. When you have that target on your back and you go into the NFL, Caleb. When you have that target on your back from being a USC QB, y'all in there too. When you have that target on your back, I don't feel sorry for you. I don't feel the way Tank feels because you are carrying that with you in the draft that's getting you paid higher than some other well-deserving guy that might be getting picked in the second and third round. So guess what? I don't feel sorry for you. The rent is due. And if you get evicted, you get evicted. The rent is due. So don't come in here taking all the bells and whistles of your team and all the bells and whistles of the Heisman Trophy and all the accolades that came with it that you're carrying into the NFL, and you're negotiating what you're gonna do and how you gonna have you want your money in and you want your money
Bitcoin.
way, you want your money in Bitcoin, you want to see if you can have part owner of the team, you doing all that leverage, and then you go to crying when it don't work out for you. No, don't do that. That's the argument for the third round guy. That's the argument for the last pick in the draft. That's his argument. But you top 5, you top 10 QB guys, you top 10 wide receivers carrying all the accolades with you, I don't feel sorry for you. You need to be benched. The rent was due. All right. So at the end of the day, it's been a great show. We want to ask everyone to make sure you come to or visit us at YouTube at No Jazz Show. That's NOJASS Show, SHOW. Make sure you follow us on Facebook at No Jazz. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at No Jazz Show. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at no.jazz, no.jass. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Email us. Let us know what we need to be talking about. Let us know what we need to be doing. You've been great. Tank, sign off for the people.
See y'all next show. Enjoy the games, and we'll holler at you.
Holla at you. You just watched another episode of No Jazz. Follow us on YouTube at No Jazz Show. And make sure you hit us up on Twitter at No Jazz Show. Make sure you hit us up on Instagram at noj.a.s.s. Follow us on Facebook on our Facebook page at No Jazz Show. All right? See you soon.